December 13, 2018, by stating the time, place, and date of all regularly scheduled meetings, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. A copy initially included with the minutes of this meeting. Please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Here.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Here.
Mr. Prasad?
Here.
Mr. Willand?
Here.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes, here. Okay, let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, at our last meeting, it was, I think, the day after D-Day, and I read a little something, a little commemoration of that day. And one of my friends told me that today is the anniversary of a time in history that I don't think I ever knew about, or I've since forgot junior year history, which was some 50 years ago. This is the history of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the ending of slavery in the United States. Dating back to 1865, it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. Note that this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official January 1, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation had little impact on the Texans due to the minimal number of Union troops to enforce the new executive order. However, with the surrender of General Lee in April of 1865 and the arrival of General Granger's regiment, the forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome the resistance. And I thought that was quite interesting. I can see I've got glazed eyes out there.
I agree with you.
Everybody just got that but smarter.
Just a little tidbit. At this point, is there any member of the public that has any business before this board that is not on this evening's agenda? I hear none and see none. We have a resolution, 1908. Mr. Willand, you want to read that?
Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of the following resolution memorializing the grant of relief requested by the applicant Sadup Shahab in application number 1908 for permission to install a 6-foot vinyl fence, 5-foot solid and 1-foot lattice on all sides of the subject property under the zoning ordinance of Township of Parsippany, and to seek C variance relief for such reasons as placed in the record relating to property known 38 Forest Drive, Parsippany, Block 2, 421.1, Lot 8 on the tax map of Township of Parsippany Troy Hills.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Nora, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. We have minutes to approve or not?
Nope.
No minutes, okay. All right, let's go right into the residential applications then. Application 1911, Jason McGrath, 35 Hidden Glen Drive. C variance to install a 6-foot high solid fence. Good evening.
Mr. McGrath?
How are
You
you?
can stand up, please, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Jason McGrath, Jason, last name McGrath.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking at your survey.
Mhm.
Can you explain where the fence is going to go? You live on a corner, is that correct?
We do. We live on
Jagged.
the corner of Hidden Glen and Jagged Rock.
Okay. And where do you want to put the fence?
So we'd like to enclose the backyard. We currently have a fence along the back line of the property as well as along the side of the property on Jagged Rock. We're proposing to replace those two fences on our property and then finish the enclosure across the sides of the house and up along the property line between us and Lot 2.
So what's your next best offer after a 6-foot solid?
We would be okay with 5-foot solid, 1-foot lattice on top, 6-foot total. Currently, the fence that's there is 5-foot solid with a 1-foot lattice on top, 6 foot, and that's currently in that place on the side.
Yeah, it'll look a little better, a little less like you've got a prison or something there, you know. Any other questions by the board?
You're saying there's a fence along Jagged Rock Road now?
There is. If you'd like to see some photos, I have some papers here. I
It
can show you.
says wooden.
It is wooden currently, that's correct. It's been there, I don't know how long. We've been in the house about 3 years. It's rotting away, it's falling down with a light breeze. So,
So you're gonna replace that in place?
that's correct. The new
Are
fence
you-
will be approximately 2 sections shorter. We're not going to come up as long as that fence currently goes.
Okay, and you're gonna keep it out of the right of way, because it looks like
Correct.
part of that old fence is in the road.
Correct. It is just beyond the property line in certain sections. We're going to
Yeah.
make sure we're within the property line,
Okay.
6 inches required.
That's good. And then it's gonna go on the, if I look at Hidden Glen, you're gonna have a couple of pieces that go out from the corner of the house.
Yes,
And-
we're going to
and
come.
then- And then on the Hidden Glen, on the left side, you're gonna also do the fence all the way back on the left side?
That's correct. We're going to fully enclose the backyard to
Okay.
provide some space for our kids to run and eventually a puppy, hopefully.
Okay. I think it'll look much better. That's
That's
what
what
I
our
have in my
neighbors think.
house, and it looks nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
You've handled it well.
Thank you. Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you'd like to add, right?
No, that's all we need.
Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a comment about the de minimis effect?
I'll be approving it. I'll be voting in favor of it.
Okay. Fine. Someone like to frame a resolution?
Sure. Application 19:11, Jason McGrath, 35 Hidden Glen Drive, Block 709, Lot 1, Zone R3. Recommend granting a C variance to install a 6-foot-high, 5-foot with a 1-foot lattice fence, contrary to Section 430-11A and B.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
I just looked at the picture of what you have there. It's going to be an improvement.
Thank you.
Did I say yes?
Yes.
Okay. We will memorialize this in first meeting in July, which I think...
July 10th.
What's that?
July 10th.
July 10th, and then you'll be free to get your permits after that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. All righty, we're gonna do application 1902, Nikesh Shah, 18 Phillip Drive, major soil moving permit in conjunction with approved application for single-family dwelling.
Mr. Schott? Yes. We wait for a second to let your expert set up, and we'll have both of you sworn in. Gentlemen, if you could please raise your right hands and repeat after, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. Shah, N-I...
Nikesh, last name Shah, S-H-A-H.
Will you be doing the presentation, or will your expert?
Conjunction, both. I think my engineer will be, and I'll
Okay.
interject where I need to.
Sir, what is your name?
First name is Jeff, last name is Egarian, E-G-A-R-I-A-N. I'm the professional engineer.
Proposed professional engineer?
Yes.
Licenses are in force, and you've testified before us?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you were qualified then. This is the house that we had the big
Sing-
controversy with the next-door neighbor?
Yeah.
Which we approved? just
Correct. So
recently?
you guys,
Okay.
the single-family variance was approved end of March.
Yes.
Apparently, we did not have the soil moving
Okay,
application in at that time, so we're back for that.
okay. You're gonna proceed?
Yeah, I will go ahead and quickly go through the plans. So just take the microphone. Go over. Just quickly, we worked together with the applicant and the architect to set the finished floor elevation of the house. The intention was to get as much usable backyard space as possible, controlling the stormwater and getting it in a way where the yard is usable, and we were able to minimize the need for retaining walls. So ultimately, what we ended up with was a net soil moving of fill of approximately 1,400 yards. The driveway sloped at 10%. The front yard is sloped away at approximately, I think it was about 8.5%. And the yard is relatively flat. In the pool location, we're proposing a 4-foot high retaining wall, and then the right side of the property, the north side, is graded and sloped. The stormwater for the portion of the property is going to sheet flow in existing conditions, and it's going to be routed around the driveway to the side. Stormwater from the front of the house is going to be directed straightly towards Phillip Drive, and along the same thing on the south side of the property. And that's essentially the grading plan in a whole.
What is the date of that map?
This plan is dated 11/28/18. I guess we've been at this for a little while.
In the 18, in the packet is a plan that's dated January 15, 19.
I probably grabbed I could have grabbed an older plan, which is,
And that appears to be the plan that is the zoning department's calculations of various areas. This is the one that I'm looking at right here.
that's the plan that we. No, that's my plan. I'm the next application.
Oh.
My personal home is the next application.
Okay. All right.
But that looks nothing like this house.
November 28th, right? Is that the date you said?
Yeah, 11/28/18.
11/28.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not sorry to confuse you.
Movement of the soil. 1,400 yards, my best guess, 140 trucks? Yards?
Well, it depends if they're bringing triaxles in or the size of the truck. But, you know, for the calculation, we took into consideration the entire excavation of the basement and the swimming pool and the seepage tanks in the front yard. And so and the driveway slope, we modeled everything. So that is
Let's say it's 100 trucks.
okay.
We're gonna limit you what hours a day you can operate the trucks, is that okay?
Okay.
After 9, or after 8:30, let's say, 8:30, everybody in the neighborhood should be up.
Sure.
And last truck leaving by 4:30, and only Monday through Friday?
That's fine.
Is that acceptable?
Yep.
Am I missing anything, John? And you've consulted with the town engineer, is that correct?
Yes.
I've spoken to him also on the matter. We discussed stormwater specifically, and we went through the criteria, and we sized the seepage tanks per his criteria. So we've already gone through that together.
You said 1,400 yards, and Mr. Lizza is saying 2,869 cubic yards.
It could be, it's
2,869, that's a big difference.
what he did was he took the cumulative cut and fill number, it appears. Let me just double check that. So what I just testified to was the net.
So that's the net that you're gonna remove from the property. The 2,869 is gonna be the disturbed portion, is that?
Correct. The 2868 is the combined number of the cut plus the import fill. That's 2868, and the net import to the site would be the 1395 or 1,400. I rounded up.
So you're bringing in 1,400
Correct.
cubic feet?
Yes.
Okay.
And you're taking out 1,400,
We're not taking out any soil.
just bringing soil.
We're just bringing soil in.
Moved from, so the soil, you're moving the 2,800 on the site, move from one place to another.
Correct. Yes.
And then
On-
you bring in another
disturbance.
14, yeah, that's the disturbance.
correct.
In terms of how this property is going to look with the neighbors, is once it's done, is it going to look uniform with the pitch, with the elevations of the neighbors, or?
Yeah. Yes, it will. The property to the right is essentially going to be, the homes are going to be at the same elevation. Everything slopes from north to south.
Okay.
So, you know, the two properties, the property to the right, to the north, like I said, it's going to be at the same elevation, and everything's just going to flow north to south as they exist. The contours can tie into the existing contours on the adjacent lots, so there's going to be minimal.
Is there going to be any need for block walls or not?
We're proposing a small block wall in the rear of the property,
The rear of the property.
just adjacent to the pool.
Can you keep any of the trees around the edge of the property or not?
Unfortunately, a lot of them, a majority of them are going to have to be removed just for the amount of grading that's going to be required and access to the site and and construction of the home.
None of them be kept, you say?
Correct, but we testified at the last meeting for the variance that the homeowner will be proposing some future landscaping.
Any questions over here on the right? Go ahead, sir.
Are you gonna have sediment control, silt fence along the perimeter of the disturbed area?
Of course, yeah.
And also, some sort of control to prevent, mud coming onto the road?
Well, yes, the
Washout.
silt fence.
Yeah, tree and stone at the entrance.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
helps.
We will be needing to prepare a soil erosion sediment control plan for the county, and all those measures, seeding, stabilization, erosion control, construction access, that's all going to be part of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else over here on the right? Bernie?
My only question, so you made references to it, but just for the record, you saw Mr. Liz's report from May 16th? Have you seen it?
I don't think I've seen that report.
It's got 8 points on it.
I don't believe I've seen that, but I did speak with Mr. Lisa via email. Well, I'm sure whatever's in that letter that I haven't seen.
Well, he just mentions how much the application fee is.
Okay.
Soil fee, inspection fee, performance guarantee fee, requires a pre-construction meeting. He mentions several items, information need to be provided before the meeting that you have. He acknowledges or reminds you of need council approval, and then no disturbance until everything's approved by the engineering office. That all sound good?
Yeah, we have no objection to that.
Okay.
We can meet those criteria.
And he also says this office has no objection to the soil moving application.
Right.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we make it subject to this reporting.
Okay, are there any I'm sorry. Do you have anything else, Bernie?
I'm done.
Was that email sent to,
I'm done.
How about,
Oh,
you have any?
No, I'm good.
You're good.
I'm sorry, yeah, was that email sent to Mr. Agarian from Mr. Lisa?
it's a report that I got in my package. I don't know
Okay.
how it was
Addressed to the
sent.
Board of
It's
Adjustment.
addressed to the board. So,
You can have my copy.
I marked mine up.
Okay,
You
got one.
have that one.
Anything else, John? Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? Please come forward. You have to use the microphone.
Will this be question or testimony?
Just a few questions.
Can you
I
state
guess
your
you want my
for the
name. My
record,
name is
please?
Steve, commit KMIT. I live at 20 Phillip Drive, next door to the project.
KMIT.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Clement.
My only question, I just have two questions in general. They're basic. I just want to make sure, do you guys have any plans for like doing a swale between my property and your property, just to keep the water from running onto my property?
It is our intention to not impact your property negatively in any way with respect to stormwater. We can, in the pre-construction meeting that was, we talked with Mr. Lisa, we can certainly address that at that time and put it in place if we all deem it's necessary. We have no objection to that.
Right, because most of our properties on the street have a swale between them where the water runs, directly. Also, I ride a motorcycle. I just want to make sure if you guys have plans at the end of the day, just to clean up the mud that's usually tracked down, because you're in a wet area like I am, so we do get a lot of mud when everybody builds. And it tracks all the way down to South Bedford. I just want to make sure that you have plans to clean up at the end of the day, so nobody, gets injured. Kids on bicycles, myself on a motorcycle.
I can't promise you that until I talk to the GC. I don't know if it could be done every day, maybe it could be done every couple of days,
We can
but
cut this short. That's part of your requirement, is your pre-construction. If you put mud in the road, they'll fine you.
okay. But there you go.
Yeah.
Better hope it
Just-
stops raining.
Just call up,
That's
just
what I'm
call
saying.
up the, co-
I have no
just call
control
up the
over rain,
cops
so.
and tell them they're leaving mud in the road, and they'll come down and issue the tickets. I'd like to go back to the drainage. Do the leaders run out to the street, or the leaders just going to daylight?
The leaders are going to 2 seepage tanks, 2.
Okay. That's most of your water.
I'm done. I just had a couple.
Thank you. Any other members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? I hear none to see. Sure, come on back.
So all of this stuff that we went over last meeting, that's, I mean, moving the sidewalk that was going around, that's all done now, correct?
That's all, yeah,
That's
whatever
all.
we agreed to the other meeting, that's all, they're not changing any of that.
Okay.
This is just for the soil moving permit.
Perfect.
And all we do is recommend it to the council that they can approve it. It has, they have to go through another level before the council. Any other members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you would like to add, right? Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Do we need to go into conference, or can we just approve it? Bernie, you want to do it?
I have no problem with the application, as long as it's subject to the engineer's report and they do what they're supposed to. I'm fine.
That's your motion?
So moved.
So moved. There a second?
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Good luck. Hope it stops raining.
Mr. Agarian, don't go anywhere.
Application 1868, April and Jeffrey Agarian, 34 Sedgefield Drive, Block 185, Lot 8. C variance to construct additions, front covered porch, rear screened-in porch, rear porch, front entrance patio, front stairs, front walk, front stepping stones, rear patio, rear stairs, rear stepping stones, rear stairs again, side and rear walk. How many houses are you building?
Just one house. It needs a lot of work.
Now look at the zoning report as to what he's here for.
Okay, if you could please both raise your right hands. You swear the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth,
The first page.
and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
We do.
No, the second page. Look at the second page, see what he's here for. So, a minute.
Mr. Agarian, I assume April is to your left?
Yes.
Well, all that I said, and what it amounts to is a 2.5% variance. And what is that? Building coverage, 2.5%. How big's your lot? You're in an R3 zone,
It's just shy of 16,000 square feet.
so we're talking about approximately 300 plus or minus square foot
Yes.
above and beyond the,
Correct.
why don't you tell us what you want to do and why you want to do it?
Sure. So just quickly, my wife and I, we purchased this house just a little over 2 years ago with the intention of moving back to Parsippany, raising our family. We're both born and raised here. I'm a graduate of Parsippany High. She's a graduate of Parsippany Hills. We have
You
two
guys
little...
fight a lot over there, or?
Parsippany Hills is better.
No, we don't.
That's why it says-
There's nothing bitter there at all.
That's end of story, right?
End of story. She wins. So we purchased the house because of the Sedgefield Drive. We have a lot of friends in that neighborhood, and it was our ideal place. We purchased the house understanding that we needed to renovate it. Currently, it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath ranch. What we're proposing to do is a second-floor addition, add a garage bay, and then go out to the rear a few feet. And obviously, we're seeking a variance for the building coverage of the two point.
So you're not asking for any side yard setbacks, no front yard setback, no rear yard setback. Have you talked to your neighbors about this at all?
Yeah, they actually should be here to support me right now, and
Oh.
They're on their way.
I anticipated the first 2 applications taking a little bit longer, so I didn't want to waste too much of their time, but they'll probably miss us, but
It looks like that walkway that you've got going out to the street is pretty much your variance.
No, our only variance is for
I
building
mean, in
coverage.
terms of coverage.
Well,
No,
our
it's building-
impervious coverage
if-
conforms.
Bu-
It's
building
only
coverage.
building coverage.
Impervious covers?
Yes, and
Okay.
really the coverage variance is for the addition really of the covered front porch.
Yeah.
The building itself, the home itself does conform, but it's always been a dream of ours to have a nice front porch.
I would love to have a front porch.
So, our front porch is approximately a little over 400 square feet. We talked about is 300, I believe it's 380 square feet we're over for the variance. So it's the front porch, which is really what we would like. And again, I understand the implications of the building coverage or number. We are prepared to remedy the stormwater management plans.
Does your leaders run out to the street, or?
Currently, they do. But obviously, when we make the improvements to the property, we're going to take every measure that we can to make sure that nobody's impacted in a negative way.
Okay. And this is because you want to have a nice-sized house on an R3 zone, right?
Correct.
A house
We have-
that fits the R3 zone more than a
There's-
two-bedroom, one bath.
Yeah, if you drive through the neighborhood now, people are popping up second-story additions all over.
Regentrification of a lot of the areas in this town. Same
It's-
thing in Lake Hiawatha. Lake Hiawatha, you see these nice colonial-style homes replacing the old vacation bungalows
Mhm.
of the 40s, 50s, and whatever. So where are you going to live while this is all going on?
We have to figure that out.
I mean, I did a 700 square foot addition to my house 20 years ago, and I thought my wife and I were going to commit suicide over it
Well-
because we lived there the whole time.
No.
Earmuffs,
Not a
honey.
chance.
Earmuffs.
Not a chance, okay.
Yeah, we understand we're gonna have to move out. Hopefully we can find someplace close, but, this is gonna be our dream home for the next
That's-
35 years.
that's
and
great.
We're fully invested in it, so we'll do whatever we have to do.
Any other questions by the board?
Just on your grading plan, it looks like the grading, the dominant grading drains to the east of your next door neighbor currently. With the increased impervious surface, what are you gonna do to mitigate that?
Part of our overall plans were to berm the property line and put up a screen, a privacy screen. So any water that flows that direction now is ultimately gonna end up staying on our property, and
Going toward the street?
we will get it towards the street, and yeah, we'll get it towards the street. We'll put the measure together. This
Yeah,
isn't necessarily a
You
grading.
shouldn't add any more stormwater to your neighbor's property. You know that's the rule.
Understood, yes.
Any other questions? Any questions over on the right? No, we're good?
Good.
Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you want to add, is there?
No, sir.
Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Davey, you want to do a resolution?
Sure.
You think this is a good application, right?
Yes, I do. So, yes, Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the application of Jeffrey and April Effingham. How do I pronounce the last name?
It's Egarian.
Egarian, very good, okay.
That's an easy one, Dave.
Yeah, okay, I know. In application number 1868, block 185, lot 8, zone R3, to grant the variances listed on the sheet without reading them all, in section ordinance 430-35, column .1, for building coverage to be approved at 17.5, which is a de minimis amount over allowed amounts. So I recommend approval.
Is there a second?
Second ready.
Thank you. Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Ibrahim?
Yes. Results of variance granted. We'll
Thank you.
memorialize it on July 10th.
Okay, appreciate your time, thank you.
Yeah, good luck finding a place to live. Okay, that's that. All righty, application 1912, Bill and Anna Yashara, is that correct?
Yahara. It was Yahara.
Yahara, okay.
raise your right hands. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. and Mrs. Yahira.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes.
You are looking for a variance for install an in-ground pool. Oh, how nice.
The deck.
And patio, fence, and equipment, okay. You are in an interesting zone. You're in an R2 zone that was built like an R3 zone.
I don't know what that means.
Well, the lots were smaller and there was more open space provided in that development.
Okay.
What is it called? What's known?
Cluster.
Rickland Village.
No, not
Normandy Village.
Rickland Village.
Is it Rickon? No, isn't that?
No, it's Normandy Village.
Normandy.
Normandy Village.
Normandy Village,
Normandy
yeah.
Village,
Over
built at the
off
same
of,
time, but it's
off
still
of
built.
Reynolds Avenue and that.
Off of Smith.
Right, off Smith Road,
Yep.
yeah. And, Mr. Chadwick, you could tell them better what that zone is.
Well, what they did is they allowed for smaller lot sizes to create open space in various areas. And so the lots in this area, they're about 2/3 of what the normal lot size is required. So
So you're
consequently, you wind up with a lot of coverage variances. And currently, the zoning ordinance still requires a pool to be considered impervious. So the board's well aware of that issue.
And pools are collectors of water. They're not, there's no runoff necessarily from a pool. So you got two strikes against you already. You're in an R2 and you got, no, only kid.
I got one question. You're showing your deck into an easement. It's a drainage easement.
That was there already when we purchased the home. That's how it was built.
How are you going to get the equipment to build the pool into your backyard?
We got a
Easement from your neighbor?
from our
Permission, yeah.
permission from our neighbors to use a combination of our property and their property
To get back there?
to get the trucks into the backyard.
So the wood deck is already there,
Yes.
Yes.
and that you're not taking down.
No.
No.
So you're asking for,
Pool.
well, yeah, but,
Pool,
but,
the
but,
fence,
And the fence.
and just the patio around the pool.
yeah, but
I don't understand why the fence is a variance.
Well, because
You're allowed 6 feet in the backyard, you're full. Oh, you want to put it in the easement?
correct.
Yes.
but the what in the easement?
The fence.
The
Fence.
fence.
We have an underwater storm pipe drainage from the street that
Going
goes
in.
from the front property through it's right on the property line between mine and my neighbor's property. And it goes straight through to the corner of my lot.
All right,
It drops into a outfall, which feeds off into a
In
creek
the-
that runs.
In the engineer's report, I don't know if you've seen it, but you're gonna have to meet with them to.
I did.
Okay,
I
well,
did.
you'll probably have to do it again if the board approves this.
Okay.
The question is really whether they can put a fence in the easement.
Well, from what Brian Kryza told me, that as long as you put the posts at least a foot off of the pipeline, he said, call me and I'll come out and I'll definitely locate exactly where the pipe is. And then from that, you'll be able to determine at least a foot off of the pipeline. Just, so you don't have it directly on top of the pipeline.
Why
then-
are you asking for a 3-foot setback on the patio to the right of your property, when it seems like you could conform to the 6 feet by just moving everything over 3 feet?
With the deck and with the size of the pool, moving it to have it 6 feet off the setback, it really eats up pretty much the entire backyard in that case. So we're trying to have it a little closer in order to be able to leave some space for the
Just,
kids
we have
to
2 kids.
run
We're just
around.
trying to have as much yard left over as possible.
The problem I have is that you've got a neighbor who lives next door to you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And pools are fun, noisy, you know, sometimes 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
and
Our neighbor, she pretty much is never home. I'm pretty.
She actually lives in Delaware right now.
She knows, I guess, a lot of people here. She comes here all the time. Her name is Beverly Casper. So she apparently
Yeah, I know we've
complains a
shown
lot
her-
about a lot of things.
I think I
But-
remember her from another application quite a
Right,
while ago.
but I
over in
mean,
Lake
she
Hiawatha.
she hasn't lived here in about
That
7 months.
I understand that, but somebody may live there next week if the house was sold. Can you provide some vegetation
Yeah, we're
along that
absolutely-
side?
we're
Like
absolutely
maybe
gonna put, like,
something
larger-
that's- You're gonna have a fence all around the backyard?
Yes.
Yes.
I say, you don't
yes.
necessarily have to worry about deer. They don't jump the fence, do they?
Well, it's a 4-foot fence.
It's
right?
only-
It's only a 4-foot
Yeah,
fence.
4
Yeah.
foot.
Deer
Is
will
it-
jump that.
Is it open or solid?
Well, we're trying to get a chain link fence, like a black chain link fence,
So they're gonna be
so
able
you
to
can
see through
still
it, therefore
see.
they'll jump over it.
Yeah.
If you plant like a Norway spruce or something like that.
Yes, that's
Yes,
what
that
we're
was-
and
trying to do.
maintain them, keep them
Mhm.
trim.
Absolutely, yep.
You know, they grow maybe about 8 or 9 feet, and
Mhm.
they make a great natural
Yep.
buffer. So you will do that.
Yes.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we get a little more specific on it? You would need at least, you shouldn't have more than 6 feet on center. I mean, less than 6 feet on center. So you'd need 3 of them. So you understand, as soon as they catch and start growing, you're gonna have pine needles in your pool. Not pine needles,
Not a
but
Norway spruce.
they should.
No, they don't leave needles.
No, I have Norway spruce in my house.
You got
They-
needles
they-
on the ground.
Oh, not that much, John, really.
Oh, no,
Kind of
I
like a
know.
pine
No, we
tree.
have neighbors that
yeah.
you have them, and they grow together.
All right, so you're willing to do that?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely, yep.
Okay.
I have one in my backyard that I planted about 10, 12 years ago, and they're my neighbor's shed. My neighbor behind my house is the old Lake Hiawatha. Okay, our development was built much later than that. And his big shed, and it was not one of those little sheds, it's a big shed. I planted a Norway spruce in front of there, and you cannot see the shed now. That's how big it got. And it's at the point now where I've got to start maintaining it, you know, keep it.
I mean, every couple years, you could just trim it down.
Right,
And
right.
just keep it like
Okay.
9 feet high, 8 feet high.
Okay, so that answers the 3 foot. Impervious coverage, that's primarily because of the, well, it's also because of the way the zone was written, right?
Yeah, well,
Or
it's
the
two,
zone was
yeah.
written. And the pool is a collector of water, so if you took out the pool, which is about 4%, 115,000 square feet, that's about 4.5%. That would bring us down to about 28,
He's already at 26.
it's already at 26, yeah.
It's at 26.
I just have one silly question possibly, but I want to ask it anyway. So the positioning now of the pool, and I can see on your map where you want to have more yard to the left of the pool from the back of the house. Behind this, we have a 3-foot walk around the pool, but there's open space from your deck stairs going down there. Why couldn't the pool turn a bit, okay, on an angle almost, so we won't have the we won't have the coverage, the issue to the fence, okay? It'd be more convenient from the deck, okay? Is there any reason you couldn't reposition the pool?
With the way our yard is graded, it slopes quite a bit. So there is actually a pretty big, I don't remember what it is, 3 feet or 6 feet grade difference from the.
From left to right?
No, from
No,
the,
from
Front to back?
from where the
from the
house is
house
located to the very
back.
end of the property line. We already talked with the pool people about having, instead of, if this is a house,
Right.
pools could be like this.
Right.
We already talked about having
Yeah,
the pool
right,
this way,
right.
but it's just a lot more dirt and could be a lot more grading doing it that way. So that's why
Because
we
it's
just
higher
tried
in
to
that
have it
area, right? That's what
parallel
you're
to the
Yeah,
house.
it's highest right by the house, and then it slopes down pretty significantly.
We could have the deep end of the pool near the house, though. I'm just, you know.
Oh, my goodness.
Huh?
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, the proximity, like you're saying, your current neighbor doesn't have a problem there, but this could be a potential problem in the future, okay, with other property owners as your neighbors. That's my only concern. And if you
Yeah,
could
but Davey,
just-
if they put significant vegetation there,
That's
3
gonna
feet's
be
not gonna
right
make
on
that
their
much
lot.
difference in the noise factor.
excuse me?
I don't think 3 feet's gonna make that much difference in the
No,
noise
no.
factor.
Noise
No,
is
it's
not
not.
No, it's
not
not.
a big thing,
not.
but
Okay, I thought I would ask. You
Okay.
gave an answer?
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given this evening? I hear none and see none. Is there anything else you'd like to add? No? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Who's going to frame a resolution, Mr. Jaskowitz?
Sure. Application 1912, Bill and Anna Achera, 38 Normandy Drive, Block 741, Lot 66, Zone R2. Recommend granting a C variance to install an in-ground swimming pool, surrounding patio fence, and pool equipment contrary to Section 430-35, columns 8 and 13.
second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Prasad.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yep.
Chairman Ira Kane.
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We will memorialize this on July 10th, and then you'll get your permits after that. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
We're not opposed to coming to pool parties either. if you ever know. You know, you guys all know I kid a lot, right? I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
good luck. Application 1915, Lilium and Gustavo Moriera. 10 Nokomis, C variance to construct, replace a detached garage. Good evening, how are you?
How are you?
Please raise your right hands. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. and Mrs. Moria.
Okay, so,
My house.
side yard, 1.5 existing and proposed, accessory rear yard, 5 feet existing, 5 feet proposed, yards and courts open deck stays the same, building coverage stays the same, impervious coverage stays the same. All you want to do is replace what's already there.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
And obviously, you can't move it any other place to make sense.
No,
This is where
we're-
it's got to go.
Yeah.
What are you gonna be able to recover, the slab? Or nothing?
We're gonna leave the slab and we're gonna use part of the existing foundation. And we already have the demolition permit granted.
Did you see what happened? Tree fell in the garage, smashed it down pretty well.
Is that what happened?
Well,
There's a
the
picture.
neighbor's tree fell,
Yeah.
a big oak tree.
It happened to my son down in Montclair.
Oh.
One of those old Montclair trees that's
Yes.
like about as big around. Came down, cut that,
Yes.
both cars in the garage.
Yeah. We
No
got,
Thank God
our car wasn't there.
No
Yeah.
damage, no damage to
yeah,
the cars.
we got a
The only
phone call.
problem was,
yeah.
when they took the tree off, they had to have an engineer come in and say, is it okay to open the doors? Because they thought maybe the doors were holding up the garage after the tree hit.
So the new garage is the exact same size as the current.
No,
garage.
yeah,
Exact
neighbor's
same
tree,
size.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Just new materials,
Yeah.
so hopefully
Okay.
nicer.
That's actually in my garage too.
Really?
Big,
All right.
big evergreen.
Oh.
That's big storm last year.
It's gonna be finished to look like the house or similar, or?
Yes, the construction is cinder blocks. The cinder blocks is there, so we're looking to have it as cinder blocks, just like it is.
Oh, okay.
Same beige color that we have,
Okay.
a new roof matching the house.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. It's a de minimis request. Somebody frame a resolution?
Sure, application 1915, Lilium and Gustavo Moreira, 10 Nokomis Avenue, Block 543, Lot 15, Zone 4, recommend granting a C variance to construct, replace a detached garage contrary to Section 430-35, columns 8, 9, 10, and 13, and Section 430-10.1.
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. The variance is granted. We will memorialize this on July 10th, and then you'll be free to proceed. Okay?
Thank you. Good night.
Have a great night. There was a move through the wall air conditioning. The tree hit. It cracked. You could see the oh my God. The tree was supposed to be taken down.
Should have gone in as a read. Because they're basically using foundation part of the wall.
Okay, application 1917, Margaret Stark, 1 Scenic Drive, Denville. C variance to install a generator.
Start, please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give to this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, so
The house is 2 inches off the road, but you have to come here for a placement of the generator.
I do what I'm told.
fortunately you have an understanding group here, so this is probably going to be the most pleasant part of your exercise, getting this thing put in.
Actually, it's been pleasant.
Oh, she's great.
Laura
Is Laura
has
taking
been-
care of you?
She's been very helpful.
Triple A, she's great.
Thank you.
All right, so you're going to put this, it says front yard.
That's right. The house is 2 inches off the street.
But it's kind of on the side of the building, right?
Well, this is a question that I had, but I was told by
Yeah, it's a
zoning
front
that
yard.
because the way my house and property is laid out, my side yard is considered my front yard, which I had much confusion over, but I abide to what you tell me my property is.
Anything that runs along a street is called a front yard under zoning, regardless of where the house sits or faces.
Well, I was just answering.
Yeah, there are houses in this town that have 3 front yards. They actually are on a corner of 2 streets, and they have 3 front yards. They come for anything, it's always front yard. Let me just, where are you going to put it?
Is it marked on the survey
Yes.
that you guys have?
Okay, then next to that is a shed. Where is the next house beyond the generator?
Okay, the generator is going right here by my house.
Yes.
The next house is over here.
Okay,
And then in front of my house is a wooded lot. On the side of my house is a wooded lake lot.
okay. And this is a whole house generator?
Yes, it
The
is.
transfer switch and everything? Natural gas fed?
Yes.
So you're gonna have, once a week, you're gonna have a 10-minute exercise period where it's gonna run just to exercise.
That's what
You
they-
getting are you getting a Generac?
I am.
Might make a recommendation. Generac, they provide wireless signal where they will alert you every time the generator goes on or off. So they can do it by text message, they can do it by email. I found it very helpful because I have a house in South Jersey, and all of a sudden I get a message that the generator in Parsippany is running. So you might want to look into that.
We have looked into that
Okay.
as an option.
Yeah, there's an annual fee for it.
That's
But
true.
it's like, when you're away, you know if it's running or not. And it also tells you every week that it's exercising properly.
Right.
Because if you're not there to know and it doesn't exercise, you'll never know.
I'm home 90% of the time.
Then okay, then don't worry about it.
I'll know when it's exercising.
I'm just throwing that out.
That's okay.
You can exercise with it.
Yeah, you can exercise.
I'll do
with
that
it.
too.
All right, so, it's the logical place to put it. There's no next door neighbor right on the border. Any other questions by the board? No? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you'd like to add, right?
No, I'm okay.
Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to?
Yeah, this is the minimum request. Is it necessary for the homeowner? I'm in favor of this.
Can you frame a resolution also?
Yes. Application 19:17, Margaret Stock, 1 Scenic Drive, Denville, Block 124, Lot 6, Zone R3, to issue or grant C variance to install a generator contrary to section 430-35, column 4.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this on July 10th, and you'll be free to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Have a nice evening.
Yes.
And now we go to application 1923, Patrice Yacida, 620 Lakeshore Drive, C variance to legalize an existing deck in a setback. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Nocita, please raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, you have a pre-existing condition. You'd like to legalize the deck that is 6.9 feet off the rear yard, where allowed is 10. Applicant was approved by the zoning department for a new single-family dwelling with a deck on August 1, 2012. A new single-family dwelling requires as a final as-built to be approved prior to issuing a certificate of occupancy. During the review of the final as-built, it was discovered that the proposed deck was built incorrectly into the rear yard. I guess you were not aware of any of this?
I was not.
Okay. What's behind you?
A lake.
A lake. So you're not encroaching on anybody else's privacy?
I am not.
Okay, and there's no issue with being off it's just the rear yard setback, right, John?
Yeah, I mean, was the deck up next to the house and they put some utility, what do you got back there, the air conditioner
There's 2 air conditioners underneath the deck.
under the deck?
Under the deck.
The deck is like
Did it get bigger or something, or just?
There was a platform for stairs that was not included on the original.
Oh, is that, so they put a platform out and then ran the stairs down? Okay. That's where it ate up the 3 feet. Okay.
What is the height of the deck from ground?
High? I don't know. It's 20 feet.
Oh, it's quite a few
Yeah.
stairs down from the deck. Yeah.
Guess you got a nice view of the lake, huh?
I do. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. Is there anything else you'd like to add? No. Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Sounds like a de minimis request, gentlemen. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, somebody frame a resolution?
I will do. Application 19:23, Patrice Nikita, 620 Lakeshore Drive, Block 360, Lot 14, Zone R4, to issue or grant a C variance to legalize an existing deck in a setback.
Is there a second?
Jaskowitz.
Thank you. Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this on July 10th, and then you'll just get the formality of getting the permits at that point, whatever you have to do. Okay?
Thank you. Have
Good.
a good evening.
Good luck.
So,
That's what I know.
it's-
All right, 1866, 1719 Route 10 LP. Mr. O'Neill, I must have had a brain freeze because I thought this application was complete, was done. What do we have left?
had a couple of cleanup items back when we were here before you back in May. We also did not have enough members on the board to vote for the matter.
That's what it was.
So there was some outstanding questions. We were able to revise the plans. We do have some very brief testimony to clarify some of these issues. With that, I'd like to go ahead and bring back Mr. Iannelli.
Mr. O'Neill, just remind me your first name, please.
Joseph O'Neill.
I-L-L?
E-I-L-L.
And who will your expert be today?
This is Mr. Mario Iannelli. We'll introduce them. They've all been previously sworn except for the last one. We'll get to that. I've
The
got
last
just
two.
a couple with,
It's not just Mr. Iannelli?
not gonna be just Mr.
Mr. Iannelli has been previously sworn in?
He has.
Okay. Mr. Iannelli, what is your last name, please?
I'm sorry?
How do you spell your last name?
I-A-N-N-E-L-L-I.
And he's an expert concerning?
Our engineer. Mr. Iannelli, as I was indicating, we did have most of the testimony completed back in May, but there were a couple of questions. You had an opportunity to revise the plans. Just very briefly, could you highlight what we're talking about?
Yes, last time I was here, we had provided some sketches to address some of the concerns of the board and their professionals. I'm just going to run through. We submitted a full set of plans that revised formally these changes. I'm referring to sheet C105. Sorry, it's black and white, it's a little hard to see, but there was a drop-off area here. They asked to put a curved island in front of the drop-off area to protect it from cars maybe backing up. That curved island has been added. They've asked us to move the dumpsters. The dumpsters were originally located, I'm highlighting it in C105, up in this right-hand corner near Route 10. We've moved them down to a location that's behind a hotel and on an interior driveway and still accessible by the dump trucks. There was a question from the engineer about the intersection by Starbucks. We added some signage. We removed the curbed island. In this area here, Starbucks, I'm sorry it's not colorized. Starbucks is sitting right about here. There was some questions about this intersection here. We eliminated a parking space and we aligned it where this had the right-of-way going through. We added some signage to make sure that the traffic flow was more clear. We worked that out with your engineer beforehand. We just added it to the plan. And we also, basically, when we did all these changes, we also added the striped area that the fire department requested for the fire department connection of the hotel. These changes result in 2 additional spaces being lost. Last time I testified, I said it might be 1 or 2 to make these changes. It ended up being 2. The testimony we provided on the parking associated with the variance, with the shared parking, this still has no impact. I mean, the reality is that you still have the 537 spaces that are associated with the existing office building that will be vacant at night when the hotel is peaking. So the same testimony we gave about the shared parking still holds. It's only 1 or 2 parking spaces less. I think the board and the professionals thought that these 2 spaces were I don't want to use the word sacrificial, but were less important than these changes that we made for the dumpster and for the control of the intersection and also for the providing a curbed island by the drop-off. Changes are de minimis. Other than that, it'll have some minor impact, very minor impact on impervious coverage. But the reality is that the only real change is the 2 spaces less than it was before.
Thank you, Mr. Iannelli. I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions for this witness? John?
Just 2. I don't think you mentioned you cut back on one of those bulldozers.
Yes.
So that you can turn by it. Maybe you did mention it.
I mentioned it's right by the Starbucks. There was a bullnose added during an amended site plan of concrete, and the engineer was a little concerned that it would preclude a smooth transition, but we still wanted to control traffic, so we actually are putting flush Belgian block in lieu of a curb.
We did discuss on-site directory signs. Are they shown on that plan?
No, wait, we did not add those. I don't think we worked out exactly where they would want to go, but we would have no problems working that out with your professional to add some
You need
on-site.
variances for your different signs. I can't tell whether the ordinance allows them or not. So I think if the board approves this, you ought to specify that directory signs would be subject to the board engineer and the board planner approval, and we'll work out what it, I mean, I think you need to have something when you come on site, restaurant an arrow, hotel and an arrow.
Absolutely, we
those
discussed
kinds
some of
of
that.
things.
I agree 100%, and we will absolutely work with the professionals to get those types of.
The only other one is a cleanup item on the, you've got the restaurant name on the architecturals, but there's no dimensions on those signs.
Mr.
I
Montalbano.
think they match up with the site plan, but I'm not sure.
Mr. Montalbano will be discussing that next. He's changed his exhibit to show the Miller Ale House. So,
I saw that, but there's no dimensions on the signs, and I can't tell whether those signs are the same as the dimensions on the site plan.
Mr. Montalbano will fill you in on that.
Okay. Is he gonna discuss the hotel as well?
We'll have a separate exhibit regarding the hotel, and a representative of Wyndham will be discussing.
Any other questions of this witness? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on testimony given? Hear none and see none.
Thank you, Mr. Iannelli.
Thank you very much.
Montalbano.
Mr. Montalbano, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please spell your name.
Mark Montalbano, M-O-N-T-A-L-B-A-N-O.
M-A-R-K.
Yep.
Would you like to provide your expert, please?
Mr. Montalbano has been previously accepted as an architectural witness regarding the restaurant, which we identified more specifically as the Miller Ale House at the last hearing. He is here to clarify the testimony regarding the signage and the dimensions. And you have brought new exhibits with you, and I have frankly lost track of where I was with the exhibit numbers, so I'd just like to go ahead and mark this as A10, just to be safe.
I assume your licenses are still in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
Any objection? So this is Alpha 10?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Montalbano, you heard the questions. Why don't you just go ahead and get right to it? You've changed these plans. They were originally just representative, but now we're calling out the restaurant specifically. The mystery is over. So just go ahead and give us the dimensions of the signs.
Okay, in response to comments from last meeting, we did include the actual name and standard size of the sign on the revised documents. We also have reduced the area of the signage per the specific sign from 144 square feet per sign to 120 square feet, which for the front elevation would be as of right per the signage ordinance. However, there's two additional signs proposed on the side elevations of the same size that do, if were permitted, would meet the requirements with relationship to the facade size.
So
120 square feet.
Where's the original?
144. So we went from 360 went from 432 square feet to 360 total for this building.
Yes, the revised site plans, we did not have this information in time for that revision.
So we would
We'll
revise the
revise
site
again.
plan to be consistent with the architecture.
That's correct.
I tried to figure out how the sign, I said, this is smaller.
It's small.
The variance is still for the number of signs, but now we've got the actual dimensions of each one of those signs in the parameters required by the ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Montalbano. I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness? Go ahead, Mr. Arnett.
Thank you. Lastly, I'd like to go ahead and call Mr. Hildebrand.
Mr. Hildebrand, please raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Your first name, please?
David.
And if you could please spell Hildebrand.
Hildebrand.
And Mr. Hildebrand, you are?
Mr. Hildebrand is a representative of Wyndham. He'll be testifying as to the branding and signage of the proposed hotel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Hildebrand, take a seat. I'm talking to the microphone. You were not here at the last meeting, is that correct?
I was.
Oh, you were? Oh, that's right. Yes, you were. I apologize. So you saw the exhibit that we had put forth showing the coloring of the hotel. And
What
frankly,
exhibit is that, Mr. O'Neill?
well, that previous exhibit, I'm not sure that number. But this is going to be a new exhibit A11.
Okay, do we want to mark that before we
will
go any
mark it.
further? And you said this is a new exhibit?
This is a new exhibit. I've marked that exhibit as A11 for tonight. Mr. Hildebrand, that last exhibit we had, this hotel frankly looked a little purple and had some of us a little taken aback.
Yeah.
So what you have done
That's as
here, A11, is you have brought out actual color samples of what the hotel's going to look like. And I don't see purple in there.
No. Purple is not, despite popular belief, one of our branding colors, but what you do see there does represent the current prototypical design for a La Quinta hotel as we have right now.
So that what was purple is actually that gray.
It's actually gray, correct.
Which is behind the sunburst color, and the sunburst colors are there, the orange and the yellow.
That's correct.
And then you have the kind of tan cream color that's framing the building, and the highlights are in the browns.
That's correct. The color palette is basically a very monotone, if you will, neutral color scheme, thereby highlighting more so some of the elements that we want to pay more particular attention to, being the tile element, the burgundy-ish colors, if you will, as well as the sunburst mosaic, and then the accent of the red, then is the Hawthorne brand color that we want to highlight.
So now the sunburst, as we identified during the last meeting, I believe you helped us identifying that Clifton is the closest new La Quinta hotel, so it's got that new branding on it.
So Clifton, New Jersey is actually, it was a renovated hotel. It is a La Quinta hotel. They did a renovation on it in which we were able to include the sunburst on that as well. As far as new construction properties following the prototypical design, that's the closest one is actually in Clifton Park, New York, upstate, which is by Albany.
Brand new hotel.
Brand new, correct.
So can you just give us a little bit of the history of this sunburst?
Absolutely. So I'll try not to bore you with the too long of a story, but it is relevant. So the name, it goes all the way even back to the name La Quinta, established back in '68 when the brand was first established down in San Antonio. La Quinta, which directly translate in Spanish to various different translations, but country place was the translation used back then, mainly because it was along in tertiary markets along the highway, things like that. Incidentally, they chose the La Quinta name as opposed to an American name because there were some Spanish elements used on the building. That carried on for several decades up into really about 2008 when we started modernizing the building with more American elements, but we still kept a lot of the Spanish identity in regards to the name, the branding, because it had become well known. Enter 2014, when we'd established the Del Sol prototype, we actually had internal marketing and branding changes several years prior to that, and now we want to update our architecture accordingly as well. So we came out with what's called the Del Sol prototype, which is what's somewhat referenced here. Del Sol, again, translating to of the sun, and so this relates also back to that theme. Incidentally, the La Quinta motto is wake up on the bright side. Again, more alliteration to the sun and that motif. Incidentally, in keeping that, we wanted the new Del Sol prototype to have some type of representation in the actual architecture as opposed to just the branding as well. And so in keeping in line with the sun motif being used, wake up on the bright side, Del Sol of the sun, so on and so forth, we introduced the Sunburst Mosaic, which is simply a reference from the actual La Quinta logo. If you look at the sign La Quinta, the sunburst, as we call it, is a full circle abstract representation of the sun. And we established that a couple of decades ago. Incidentally, with the wake up on the bright side, the Del Sol, keeping in line with that motif, we have a partial sunburst represented there. So the actual La Quinta with the full sunburst is our actual trademarked element. The partial sunburst that you see on the actual building is simply an alliteration to that that we wanted to express in the architecture. That's not the official trademark or part of the signage that we use. And when it's only shown as a partial element, as to, again, going back to the sun motif, represent waking up, the break of dawn, where you only see a part of the sun as it rises in the day. And so that kind of, that motif kind of shows up there as part of the sunburst being shown in such a large element. And so we wanted to incorporate that in the Del Sol, and ever since the Del Sol was first designed in 2014, we've been incorporating it in our new construction properties. In fact, we've opened up 16 La Quintas this year, of which 7 are new construction prototypical Del Sols, the others being either conversions from other buildings or completely custom designs, things like that. And of those 7 that follow the prototypical design, all 7 do have that sunburst included, going all the way back to that.
So it's La Quinta's hope this becomes something akin to the Golden Arches used to be for McDonald's.
Correct. Yeah.
You see it at a distance, you know immediately.
Yes.
Or in your competition, that red roof
Yes.
structure.
Yeah.
The minute you see it, you know that that's a La Quinta.
Absolutely. It's been a huge visual cue. The sunburst is a strong identifier. It's unique within the hospitality market. It is identified with the La Quinta brand, and having it on the building itself has identified our newer product to the masses, and it's becoming more and more prevalent as we build more of these new prototypical hotels.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions by the board?
No.
Mr. Chadwick?
A11 shows the side of the building that would be you'd see coming east on 10.
That's correct. That's correct, isn't it, Mr. Hildebrand?
East.
You're coming east on 10.
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Does that side look does the east side of the building look the same as that?
I think there are some slight variations with color placement, but otherwise there's no additional materials. It would still have all the ephes, and we'll have some
Does it
variations.
have the sunburst on it?
Not on that side. It's only on the front elevation.
Just that
That's
one
it.
side?
Just that one side, correct.
The end of the building, is that the diagram below the side profile?
Yes, correct. That
So
would be
it
the
only
side
has accent colors on the sides of that portion. Is that the same as the end of the building as it faces Morris Plains?
Correct.
Less the
It
sign.
just seems much less vibrant, I guess would be the word. we
Sure,
wanna
yeah.
use.
I think it meant gaudy.
I want to stay away from that word.
We're all relieved. Let's just put it like that.
Now, when we started this building will contain 2 separate functioning hotels, correct?
2 separate functioning brands. It will be one structure, obviously, and there will be 2 brands represented, 2 brand room types. So a La Quinta room will be different. Yeah.
But so the part that is gray is the more economy scale, and the part that is, what color is that?
So actually, the architecture of the building, where you see the La Quinta brown tower element, if you will,
Right.
there won't necessarily be La Quinta rooms exactly in that area. The hotel plan is divided into half, so I believe it's the right side that will have more La Quinta rooms. The other side, Hawthorne, is actually extended stay rooms, and that'll be more so on the left side of the building.
We only have, on the top of this building, we only have one sign, however, right? Or do we have two?
On the front side?
Yeah.
There's
There'll
two
be two.
signs on each side. The front
For
facing the highway
each
and
of the
end.
entities?
That's correct.
Do we talk about those?
We did. We talked about those, and that's a variance that we requested. That's a lot of signs. I
Okay.
recognize that.
You're right.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions? I hear none, see none.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have no further witnesses, Mr. Chairman. I would ask, which I should have asked at the beginning of the proceeding, was to make sure that everybody who was not here had in fact listened to the tapes or reviewed the transcript.
I
was
think I
familiar
only
with the
count 6
application.
heads, anyway.
Well, I'll need
Okay,
all 6.
I guess we're gonna go into conference on this, so you can, well, let's, your testimony is finished.
We finished our direct test.
Okay. Are any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Motion to go into conference, please?
So moved, Berkowitz.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Bernie, you want to start off?
Well, I have no basic objection to the application, and they've complied with pretty much all of our requests. So I think I'm in favor of it. It's a unique, to me, proposal as far as the 2 hotels in one building, but that's a marketing thing. I don't think that's for us to determine.
This whole project is different than probably anything else we have in this town, wouldn't you say, with the Starbucks?
Chairman, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'd say that the layout of what we have here is probably different than any other,
Yeah,
there's
but it's
nothing
al-
else like it. This
It's
is.
also going to be adjacent to another project. There's going to be nothing like we've ever had in this town.
Oh, you mean the one down the
Yeah,
road?
the 1500.
Yeah. So,
block or whatever it's called.
which I don't think is it's not a bad thing. And it, it makes good use, I think, of a piece of property that was just office with a hell of a lot more parking than they ever needed.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I think it's I would agree that it's a good use of the property that otherwise might stand fallow if it wasn't developed like this.
Mr. Willens?
I believe the applicant has complied with all the requests and suggestions made by the board, and that the site plan or the proposed site make a nice addition to the community.
Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, I'm in favor of this application. Most of the adjustment requested by the board have been accomplished, and it is a good, it's a new development, and it brings beauty to the neighborhood too.
Mr. Prasad?
I support this project. I think it will enhance that area and be good for Parsippany and people traveling through Parsippany as well. So I support it.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yeah, I too support it. I have a lot of friends that come into town, try to get a hotel room, and it's amazing how often they're booked and their prices are through the roof. So I think it's repurposing something that's needed, and we need the room, so I'm in favor.
It's kind of a unique project, but I think it's good. I think it's good for the area, and I will be voting in favor. Motion to come out of conference?
Also move Berkowitz. We don't have to worry about saying
Jaskowitz,
this
second.
too often tonight.
Bernie, this is being recorded.
Okay.
Did I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So, could we just have you, we'll vote to authorize you to draw up a resolution in conjunction with Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah.
Is that okay, Mr. O'Neill?
That's fine.
I think that would be smoother rather than us try going through everything.
That's fine.
Okay.
Sure.
So, someone,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move on application 1866 for 1719 Route 10 LP located at 1719 Route 10, Block 200, Lot 1 zone, or LO zone, that we grant the C and D variances as requested, subject to the comments that were made during testimony and during our review of the matter. For the amended preliminary and final, well, we're doing final too?
Yeah. We can do final, Joe?
And
Don
final,
says yes.
major site plan, together with the major soil moving permits, and subject to review the resolution by attorney.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Arakin.
Yes. Result is variance is granted. Good luck, guys. I'm looking forward to coming to the restaurant. I'm gonna come over for a beer.
What about the
Thank you,
sale?
everyone. Have a great night.
Let's take a 5-minute break, okay? One more to go.
What you got left?
You got,
Yeah,
application
take the exhibit.
1929, 300 Kimball. Huh?
You only ask for a beer, not for stay or
Not for what? The steak? Although I have stayed at hotels in this town more than once for different events.
Yeah. Yeah, we did last year.
Oh, one night I stayed in
Don't say you stayed at the Tomac.
No. The one that's up on the hill by TGI Fridays, the Courtyard by Marriott.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I
had
forgot
a-
why you guys had to come back. It was a quorum. You didn't have to vote. Yeah. Yeah. I was scratching my head. I know they got all those testimonies.
This take longer time or?
It was the Wyndham thing.
You switching there? Sorry.
What is it?
Which
I thought you were like looking to head out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Where's he
Again,
going? We gotta get him.
You don't want everyone coming in, particularly from a hotel, from the one entrance, and tramping all through the parking lot. If you can.
We want to see you.
Yeah,
Like my wife.
yeah, you kinda want-
We argue all the time.
Yeah, give us some thought what you think the best, the least conflict.
It's an
the
exhibit,
best
I will
circulation.
take it. Yeah, well. Yes, I know that's there, thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Take care. Have a good one.
Have a good night. You lucked out, but don't be doing that again. I won't let it get by. What's going on there?
Thank you. Send me a love notes right here. Very good project.
I can't answer some of your emails that hit my work email.
Yes, you can.
Not from work, I can't.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Anyway. You've had a smile on all night. Why is that?
29, 300 Kimball, New Jersey LLC.
Thank you, Chairman.
D variance for school use. You recognize that we only have 6 members.
We do.
And you can,
We understand.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. And again, Stephen Tombalakian from Wiener Law Group on behalf of the applicant, which is the owner of the property, 300 Kimball NJ LLC. To my right is Mr. Ted Bernstein, who's Vice President of Development for our prospective tenant, Orbis Education Services. Mr. Bernstein comes from Indianapolis for tonight's hearing, and I'd like to have him sworn in. I'll give a brief overview. I'm going to have Mr. Bernstein introduce the board to his company and what they are hoping to do in the leased space on the 5th floor of what was known as the State Farm Building, otherwise now I call it the Langen Building. And then after Mr. Bernstein, I'll have David Carlback, our planner, run through the relevant facts and the legal standards to hopefully obtain this board's approval for the use variance we seek. And we are seeking a waiver of site plan because it's strictly a tenancy, it's an occupancy matter before this board.
No setbacks, no lot coverage, none of that stuff.
Nothing.
Strictly the use.
Strictly the use of this one portion of the 5th floor of a Class A building.
Okay.
All right. So,
Mr. Bernstein, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I apologize, I didn't catch your first name.
Ted.
Ted. Bernstein, traditional spelling?
Correct, yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Tombalakian.
First of all, I do want to thank the board, particularly Nora, for all the tremendous help she did in helping process this application. We are in a bit of a time crunch. The time crunch being that Orbis plans to have a hard start in its new space on August 22nd. It's 2 months away. There's a fit up involved. They have to get their staffing, get all their prospective trainees all in place and ready to go on August 22nd. So we really do appreciate the board's professionals, how quickly they helped expedite this application. And we, again, really do appreciate all the great work that we have here. Orbis Education Services operates training facilities, office and training facilities, training the next crop of nurses that are serving the healthcare needs of the country. They have 17 similar facilities nationwide. This will be their 18th facility, and given the building it's in, the space it's proposing, this is going to be the flagship. This is going to be the best of the best facilities they have. We're happy to have them as a prospective tenant, and again, but we do need a use variance from this board because this is in the corporate office district. Parsippany permits this type of use, which I'll call vocational training, even though it's really a couple tiers above that, in several business zones, but not in the COD, not in the corporate office district. Therefore, we could not, Jen told us that this is really a use variance, that she could not approve it administratively. So we filed, and here we are. So without further ado, Mr. Bernstein, welcome. And if you could, give the board an overview of what it is Orbis, who Orbis is, what it does, how you've chosen Parsippany, and this particular space in Parsippany built after the 18th location.
Okay, thank you very much. So Orbis Education is in the business of training nurses. We do pre-licensure programs, and it's a hybrid online program, so most of the work is done off-site on their own time. We have affiliations with Atlantic Health Hospital here, where they'll be doing their clinical rotations. As many of you may know, may not know, there's a large nursing shortage in the country. Hospitals are desperate for additional nurses. We basically went into business to help bridge that gap and produce more nurses. It's an accelerated program, so they're going to be done in about 16 to 18 months. We love this location. The highways access, the easy access to the hospital system and the facilities that they'll be going to. It's just perfect, and it will be our showcase site.
Now, Ted, this is a fairly large space. It's about 15,000 square feet of usable space. Maybe gross, it's a little bit larger than that. And David is going to run through the architectural floor plan and show the board how we're doing this. But why do you need so much space for your operation?
So, I'll be honest, one of our frustrations is our space utilization is horrible, to be frank. We have to have all these pieces to meet Board of Nursing approval to be able to offer the program so that they can qualify to take the NCLEX test and get their license to be a nurse. I have looked desperately for ways to flex rooms, be able to transition rooms so we can take less space. but this is what we have to have. We have to fill out a Board of Nursing application. They actually go into heavy detail. What are the rooms? What are the sizes of the rooms, capacity uses? And we have to have all these pieces to qualify. My CFO would love it if I could find ways to take less space, because on a daily basis, you'll come by and it's a ghost town.
So you have all the equipment, the rooms, is it done interactive, or is it lecture? How is your, I'll tell you the reason I'm asking that is I was very fortunate last year to tour Seton Hall's new medical school.
Oh, okay.
And
The simulation labs and all that. So yeah, I do a couple simulation rooms where you have
With
these
the dummies
very
and everything?
expensive high fidelity mannequins that
Yeah.
give birth, they turn blue,
Yeah,
they
throw
sweat.
up and everything, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, they do it all.
If you ever have an opportunity to tour
I would
Seton
welcome
Hall-
you all to come by and see it because
Well, I would love to come and see
yeah,
your
we
place.
we'll do
once.
an open house when it's
Oh, good.
complete.
I would love to
and
see
I'll be
that.
happy to invite everybody because you
Yeah.
know I'm like a kid in a candy store. I've built more than a dozen of these, and when
Mhm.
I'm done, I still kind of look around and go, wow, just because of all the technology and all the
It's
interaction.
real state of the art, yeah.
How's this different from nursing schools or colleges, the community college or
So
four-year
this
school?
is an accelerated program, and it's meant for people who already have a degree or have at least 2 years of college. Our average age, or our age range, is about 25 to 35. They're professionals. It is a boot camp type program, so they really don't have a lot of time to play around, and they're able to get out into the workforce in 16 to 18 months versus spending 4 years on a campus.
So these would be LPNs that might want to be RNs, or a little bit of all the above, or?
Yeah, we offer the Bachelor BSN. It's called an ABSN. It's Accelerated Bachelor Degree Program.
Now, Ted, even though you're going to have simulated operating rooms, all these types of hospital-looking rooms, no actual human patients come in to be trained upon, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
It's all simulated.
It's absolutely all simulated. There's no real blood, no real anything.
I was going to offer my services.
But this is important, but you do, your trainees will use real needles to practice injections.
Yeah, we have these arms. They come in a little case, almost looks like the old Tommy gun cases. You open it up and it's an arm, and they use that to practice on.
Right. So you will have sharps disposal.
We will. We have the sharps container. We have the sharp disposal program through Stericycle, where they come by and pick up the sharps.
But there will be no biological waste.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No hazardous, nothing like that.
Okay. And in terms of the scheduling, can you explain to the board how it is in roughly 2 months' time you hope to be up and running in Parsippany and start your program?
With a lot of work, a lot of sweat, blood, and get it done. But I do this all the time, so we have a pretty robust system set up from our purchasing procurement department to have all the equipment staged, ready to go, bring in. We've got a construction crew ready to go, just waiting to see if we get the variance.
Now, the building itself, I hope, if you've been inside 300 Kimball, it's a gorgeous building. There's a beautiful cafeteria, there's a gym, it's high-end. And so the building itself is fine, it's just the space, if you go in, it's raw, it's just sheetrock. It's completely empty canvas for Orbis to fit up. And again, Mr. Carlback, our planner, is gonna be really giving the nuts and bolts of all the proofs, but if you have any questions about what Orbis is.
Approximately how many students do you service?
At our peak, we'll do 48 in a cohort. And and the way that works is when there's a test once a week, which is about 2 hours.
Mhm.
They'll come in as a whole group for that.
Mhm.
Then they'll come in for clinical training in smaller groups up to 24.
What will your hours of operations be for these classes? Hours of operations?
Our hours are 8 to 5.
Is that Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, yeah. Well, occasionally we'll do an open house on the weekend, a marketing event, but we're strictly within.
So once you admit 48 students, they run through that 16 to 18 months, and then you bring in another 48 students, or?
We'll bring in another set. We actually do a second. We'll do 2 starts a year.
2 starts a year?
Yep.
Okay.
Where do they stay?
I'm sorry?
Where do they stay? The students stay on site or?
Oh, it's not a live-in college.
Oh, no.
It's a commuter
This
school.
this is actually a hybrid online program, so all the classwork is done off-site on the computer. It's all on computer, and they just come in for testing, clinical training, then they do their rotations at the hospital. Most of these people have families and jobs. Some of them are career changers. They got a degree in something and just realize this is not what I want to do. we actually deal with a lot of people coming out of the military.
Hmm.
And,
So I'm just curious, if, let's say we say yes, and the resolution is not adopted until
July
next
10th.
July 10th, and you can't start the work until then, how do you get it done that fast?
I spoke with Jen about that, and Jen said, given that issue, Jen Bealey, the zoning officer, that the building department is already reviewing the plans. The building,
Right.
in anticipation, well, if it's denied, then it stops.
No, it's not about that, it's just that even if they review it, they could do that stuff, but you can't do any work yet.
The work will commence, hopefully, within weeks, if upon, we'll waive a reading of the resolution in order to get started, but the building has available fitted-up space that's now vacant from just office vacancies that Orbis will temporarily
Gotcha.
use just to get started by August 22nd.
Okay.
We don't want to lose the semester.
Sure.
Maybe it
Just
should.
point of information, if you ever do this again, come with your resolution the same night.
I didn't want to be that presumptuous.
All you had to
But-
do was ask.
But Mr. Carlback is going to have pictures, and you're going to see the trainees sitting at conference rooms with their laptops. They just bring their laptops and do their assessments.
And it's really, the outside world sees an office building, right?
Yeah, oh,
You've
absolutely.
got the I'm sure you have the parking
Yeah.
for 48 students.
What's
So-
strange about this is all their administrative functions that they have shown on the floor plan, probably half the space. The training part is the only part they have to be here for.
I know. We've done it before.
until you're deep inside the space, you wouldn't even know.
Where's your closest other space?
We
to
have one up in Syracuse.
Okay.
As probably the nearest to here. I've got them in Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, pretty much all over the country.
Boston?
Actually, just outside of Boston in
Yeah.
Burlington.
Okay.
And then we're out in Portland,
Who is she?
working on one in Salt Lake City right now.
My cousin's
Got a
wife.
couple down in Florida, in Miramar and
What makes Parsippany, though, ideal is that the trainees are coming from Hackettstown, Newton, Morristown, Summit.
287 and 80 and the
right
highway
in the
system.
center. So it's
That's why this town got built up the way it did.
why-
Yeah,
And of
all
course,
the
Atlantic
highways.
Health is right nearby. and that's-
Great commuter.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No. Good.
For the record, there's nobody else in the room, so I'm not going to ask if there's any other questions from the.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
My next witness, hopefully, is not a stranger to this board.
Not
David
by any
Carlback.
means.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I apologize, you are a stranger to me,
Okay.
so if I could please have your first and last name.
David Carlback, Karlebach. I'm a licensed professional planner.
And you've been qualified before this board number of times, correct?
Probably, I'm gonna guess close to 100 times now.
Oh, my gosh.
We'll skip the voir
I've
dire.
probably heard
Thank you.
every one of them.
Thank you very much. Now, David, since you know this project as well or better than, maybe not as well as Ted, but better than I do, why don't you just run through your outline,
Sure.
show the pictures and provide the testimony.
I'm gonna show the pictures. I'll hand these out. This is an exhibit that consists of 3 pages.
We'll mark
I think
this
I
one.
may be one short. I didn't kill enough trees.
We'll share.
We'll mark this.
Provide you with one at the end of the meeting.
It's a 3-page color photo exhibit. We'll mark it A1.
We'll call it A1. I'm gonna mark my copy and then surrender it at the end of the meeting. While it's being passed around, I'll just explain the exhibit. The first page just shows a photograph of the front of the building and the rear of the building. And of course, you're familiar with the site. It's quite a remarkable building. It's a massive building. It has a footprint of 82,813 square feet. Very impressive. It does have a tremendous amount of parking. 1,632 parking stalls, including 1,081 surface stalls, 417 lower deck stalls, and 134 under-building stalls. Multiple tenants at this location currently. Approximately 70,000 square feet of space is vacant. So I think the 2014 Master Plan Reexamination Report addresses this very same concern. At the time, 2013, there was 21.7% vacancy with the office space here in Parsippany, and this building is one of those, I guess, casualties. Only 6,000 square feet of office space has been rented at this location in the past 2 years. So the proposal, of course, is to occupy 15,000 square feet of usable space. I say that because I think if you include the stairwells and other area, it's actually over 18,000 square feet. But again, strictly an occupancy application. No proposed increase in building area, impervious area, no change in site access, any of that stuff, lighting, landscaping, drainage, nothing. Okay? Now, this space will be used for general office and training and educational purposes. The proposed use involves training for healthcare professionals. Students of Orbis seek to become workforce-ready, clinically skilled healthcare practitioners. And Orbis will have up to 3 training sessions daily during the hours of 8 to 5. And as was stated, rarely will this facility be in use on weekends. On-site sessions involve either small group clinical training or testing, and this is not a traditional classroom format. Trainees learn the content and theory of nursing using online format, and they practice their skills at the facility in small groups. Trainees must have at least 2 years of college. Many of the trainees, though, already have college degrees. And Orbis will have 24 to 48 trainees per session at the site. The remainder of their training will be held at a hospital setting within the Atlantic Health System. And of course, graduates of the program go on to hold positions such as registered nurses within hospitals, nursing homes, or other healthcare facilities. They may also pursue careers as nurse educators in clinical or classroom settings. So the applicant proposes no changes to the building, the parking, and or that, so they request a waiver of the site plan requirement. Now, this property is in the COD zone. It does permit quite a few uses: office buildings, research facilities, mobile food vendor establishments, banks, assisted living. But this particular use is not permitted within the zone, so a use variance is required along with site plan waiver. Now, the ordinance does provide us with a definition of education and vocational training institutions, and that's defined as a specialized instructional establishment that provides on-site training of business, commercial, and/or trade skills such as accounting, data processing, service technicians, maintenance and repair, and computer skills training. So this educational type use is permitted in some of the township's business zones and office zones. It's not permitted at this particular location. We'll just jump right into the planning rationale for the granting of a D variance. This site has failed to lease office space as zoned despite persistent and substantial efforts on the part of the owner. The leasing difficulties found at this subject property mirror those found throughout Parsippany. So as planners, it's our job to apply a certain amount of flexibility and creativity to put this vacant use back to productive purpose. That's what we're attempting to do here. And this site is particularly suitable for this use by virtue of its context. That is, its location near all these major transportation thoroughfares, Route 80, Route 46, and Route 287, because we are going to have this commuter population come to use the facility. This proposed education use basically involves students with laptops and computers sitting at desks and tables, not unlike what most office users do within an office building. And if you look at page 2 of your exhibit, you can see what typically happens within this training facility. And there in the lower left-hand corner, you can see, I guess, a practical laboratory with the mannequin that we were speaking of, the dummy earlier. Otherwise, you can see the instructional type use proposed here. Orbis needs to have its educational functions located directly next to its office functions to maximize its synergies. So much of the Orbis use is a permitted use in this zone. Now, if you go to page 3, it actually shows a floor plan. That's a portion of the 5th floor that's proposed to be occupied. And what's shaded in yellow is just a portion of the facility that we feel doesn't comport with the zone requirements. In other words, all of the other administrative and office space is not highlighted. That would be permitted. So we're only talking about a small portion of this 5th floor, obviously. And education, of course, is a good use. It can be found to be inherently beneficial in certain circumstances. I'm not saying that's the case here, but many uses, educational uses, have been determined to be such. I believe this application does advance several important purposes of the municipal land use law, and I'm paraphrasing now. Purpose A is to encourage the appropriate use of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public safety and public health, safety, and general welfare. Purpose G of the land use law, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. And purpose M, to encourage land development with a view of lessening the cost of such development and to the more efficient use of land. So all of those purposes of the Land Use Act are advanced. In terms of the negative criteria, the proposed use is very similar to office uses that are permitted in the COD zone. The proposed educational use is a minor departure from the COD regulations, and it can't possibly be determined to be a substantial impairment of the zone plan, and that's the test, board members, a substantial impairment. There'll be no physical changes to the building or the site, and I believe the board's planner in his memo to the board said that this site is in excellent condition, therefore he doesn't recommend any alterations or modifications. There's plenty of parking. There was a parking count taken at 2:45 p.m. on Wednesday, June 12th, and that found 433 empty parking stalls exclusive of the underbuilding parking. There are no homes located anywhere remotely near this site, so I'll just conclude by saying I think this is a very important, very beneficial use. Has a number of community benefits. I don't see any detriments at all, so I'm going to suggest to this board that those public benefits that are conferred far outweigh any perceived detriment. I think the board should feel very comfortable in granting this D1 variance application.
Any questions by the board? John, any questions?
I mean, this is obvious, the use advances health, safety, and welfare. I don't think we've ever had one.
We've approved educational facilities much more intense than this. Centenary College, you remember the
I mean,
one
this is
with,
the actual school part is almost accessory to the principal use of the business. And I'm not gonna get into whether they should be here or not.
Yeah, right.
They are.
Mr. Chairman, just running through Mr. Chadwick's report and also Mr. Holloway's report, there was one question, and I believe we've answered all of them. There was a question if any parking spaces will be assigned. There is
That's not
under
my report.
in
K&K.
Andy's partner's report. Under the building, there's what's called the carousel parking level. 4 of those spaces are dedicated exclusively to the tenant. If that's in their lease, that they get 4 of the 100-something spaces.
What do you mean?
The muckety-mucks get to park under the building. Everybody else has to park, you know, outside.
He visits from
Yeah,
Indianapolis.
so Ted will probably have a Ted Bernstein spot. But that's pretty much it, Chairman and board members. I mean, we hope the board will look favorably upon this application. We think it's a terrific use and a terrific addition to Parsippany. We hope you agree.
And once again, there are no members of the public here. Bernie, any need to go on conference?
I don't think so.
Down here, anybody need to go into conference?
No.
I think educational facilities like this that take over empty office buildings, and God knows we have a lot of empty office space, is a good thing for the town. It's a clean, the traffic should be minimal, right, Mr. Chadwick?
Yeah.
And,
I mean, the traffic compared to what could go in there is
Yeah.
minor.
All right, someone like to frame a resolution?
Sure, in the case, application 19:29, 300 Kimball, NJ LLC Orbis at 300 Kimball Drive, Block 735, Lot 1.05, Zone COD, recommend granting a D variance for school use.
Second ready.
Any discussion?
I would put in that, did you write that letter?
I
On
did.
what you do and what you don't?
I did.
Everything is dummies at this site. The hands-on training is off-site. So I would have that in the resolution.
So with the addition to what Mr. Chadwick said about no live person being examined
That's good, and that we're waiving site plan.
and waiving site plan.
Thank you.
Okay? Is there a second to that?
Second ready.
Thank you. Any discussion? Nora, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Fasad.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willand.
Yes.
Chairman Arkin.
Chairman
Yes.
Arkin.
Now, with regard to the building department, in the past, they wouldn't do anything until we did a resolution.
Jen said that changed this year because they don't want to wait for the zoning approval
Fine.
and then get into building code review. She says they're reviewing it concurrently and just, they won't issue permits, obviously.
All right,
You
well,
should be
if
able to
we
at least
need,
build the office part out.
if they need some sort of letter from me saying that we have no problem with a building permit being issued, but that,
They have been reviewing, I think since April, they've been reviewing the building plans, but
Okay.
because of the zoning issue, they can't issue, so.
okay.
but
All
I
right,
can
so
work
you're
with
pretty
Jen.
much covered then.
Yes.
You're okay.
Thank you,
All right,
Chairman.
good.
And we, again, Nora, thank you so much.
Invite us to the grand opening. We would love to
Absolutely.
come.
Thank you.
We'd love to see you. Take care. It's nice meeting you guys.
Make sure you know about the open house.
Motion to adjourn?
Wait, one more thing.
What? What's,
Uh,
oh, yes.
Okay, so as,
We need to have a review by the town planner of the new master plan. Okay? I am proposing that we do it some afternoon, because evenings seem to be a problem. And if we could, if we could settle on an afternoon when all available would be good.
Why don't you put out some proposed dates and see what we can do?
Afternoon means what
right,
time?
afternoons would be later than 2, Monday through Thursday. She's just looking for a variety of dates
How
to
long
get
is
the
it gonna
most
take?
people.
We need
Hour
about-
and a half.
So like, let's say we did 4 o'clock? 3:30?
Yeah, get 3:30.
Some day at 3:30.
3:30 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm in town, I'm available.
Okay. I know Davey, Bernie, and I are retired, so it's not a problem. But
I have flexibility.
you have flexibility.
Sure do.
So Nora, come up with some dates, and then we'll see what we can do.
Motion to adjourn, sir?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, guys.
Good job, buddy.
Got a lot done tonight, boy.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
At least that list of 12 residential. What, every 5 minutes?
Oh, when they're simple.
If they were all like the garage, you could do that.
Yeah, most of them.
They were good applications.
Yeah. Just a couple we need. Yeah, no, a couple we need.